Everyone can be a hero. That's the theme of this year's Heart and Stroke Ball. Dr. William Lewis is accepting an award for extending and improving lives. Joining him this morning is a patient of his, Ronald Fountain, one of the people who is thriving today because of life-saving care that he received by the doctor here and the hospitals here. Welcome to both of you. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
First of all, let's start off, doctor. What is AFib? We hear about that a lot.
Yeah, so atrial fibrillation is the most common abnormal heart rhythm that we have in the world, and about 2.5 million people in the U.S. have it. And what happens is that the top chamber of the heart, or the atria, normally beats, and it begins to just jiggle.
Okay.
And that's fibrillating.
Okay.
And when your heart is fibrillating, clots can build up on the wall of the heart, and then they can go to the brain and cause a stroke. And so stroke is one of the most common abnormal things that can happen as a result of atrial fibrillation, and those strokes can be devastating. They can be fatal, they can be very debilitating. And so one of the things that we had begun to do, there were studies that began in the 1990s that demonstrated that atrial fibrillation could cause stroke, and that could be stopped by giving people anticoagulants, or blood thinners as people call them.
Can I just ask, Ron, what did that feel like? How long ago were you diagnosed with this, and what did it feel like before you found out?
I was probably diagnosed 6 years ago, around there. I was highly active. I was out walking my dogs one morning, and I suddenly felt a significant decrease in my level of energy. And I thought, well, you know, you're almost 80, and that's to be expected. But I didn't expect it, and I didn't care for it. But I went on like that for a while. And then one day I reached up and checked my own pulse, and I could tell that my heart was racing, but it wasn't racing all the time. It was episodic. And so I went to Bill, who was my cardiologist, and I said, I don't know what's going on, but something is going on, and I think we ought to take a look at it. And he did EKG, and I remember he walked back into the examining room, and he had the EKG in his hand. He says, you're in AFib. And so we then set out a course for treatment, and I've been in normal rhythm for years, and my energy level is, I'm in my mid-80s.
Looking
my
good.
Energy level is fine. I still am actively engaged as I'm a consultant and a coach, and I serve on boards, and I have a full and active life.
Dr. Lewis, talk about the importance of paying attention to your body. Had he let this go, how quickly might it have a really bad outcome?
Yeah, a devastating outcome. Yeah. So there are about 30% of people who have AFib are asymptomatic, and some have subtle symptoms like Ron has, where you feel fatigue, and you just can chalk that up to, well, I'm getting older. And I think that that's one of those things that you should be sensitive to, and to seek evaluation by a physician. Now, a lot of things that are now on the market, which are, I wore my Apple Watch today for the purpose of demonstrating this. There's a lot of devices now that people can wear that tell them that they're in atrial fibrillation, or that there's a suspicion that they're in atrial fibrillation. And those are things that just prompt you to call your doctor and get evaluation.
And this is something that can affect anybody at any age, really?
It's mostly a disease of older people.
Okay.
And I use the word older people now in a different way than I used it before.
Well, he's looking pretty young.
He's looking very young. But I've taken care of people with atrial fibrillation in their 30s.
Wow.
So it can affect people younger, but like I said, the majority of patients are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Just be cautious, be aware, and take care of your body.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate both of you being here. The American Heart Association's 29th annual Heart of Cleveland Stroke Ball is this Friday, June 16th at the Hilton in downtown Cleveland. Our own Christy Capel going to be back from vacation emceeing that event. It just highlights the research and the funding, and just the need to, keep fighting and keep having people improve their own health and be aware of it. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.